Good morning, my friends. I'm back at my little shoebox worm bins, and last week I took them out and I counted them, and I went from 50 to 162 on this side after a couple months, and on this side we went from I had 150 had gone up to 172, so not much. But I did add these Drake elm leaves to the mix on both sides, and I think it's very interesting. They're both about the same wetness, they're both about the same everything. At 162 and 172 worms, they're probably back to being, even Steven almost. And so I thought it was interesting that some of these leaves, just on the top of this one, have developed these little white spots, and I'm assuming this is a bacteria or a fungus of some sort. Those of you, it's telling me the focus enhance, but there we go. Some of these look like a little fungus of some sort, but I know Patrick was a biology major over a compost learn by doing, and Sandra at Nana's Garden and Worms was a biology teacher. So I hope they will both say, "Oh, I know what that is, Peggy," and pass along the message. I'm not going to worry about it, and I'm not going to even take them out. What I am going to do is just see what we have done underneath here. Now, I have to tell you that it is 52 degrees this morning. Now, here in Florida, it's been 72 and 71, and so for it to drop 20 degrees, whew, that's quite a chill factor for our thin blood that we're used to having days not so long ago, very, very last week. It was still having days in the 90s, and there's a worm with a cocoon on the end of it. And that worm is saying, "Hey, I like it 70 degrees. I'm real happy with 70 degrees. Don't pull me out of here where it's 50, 52. So I wanted to see how nice these castings look that I'm getting. And I'm trying to build up just more volume. I can't say they feel doesn't feel too moist. I had put some of these leaves just on the top, just to kind of add something into it. I do see lots of nice worms. I want to see the worms bulk up, because these worms are kind of small. And I'm turning these leaves down underneath. My tool here is probably too big for this, but we're going to give it a good old try. And I'm not really finding food of any sort. I think the last time I had bananas, so maybe that's what this is, or aloe. Remember, I had the aloe in here also. We're going to pull these way up to the side. Going to clean that one off. Come over to this side. See if we can see any difference. Looking good, worms. They're decent size, maybe a inch and a half, maybe a little closer to 2 inches. Last year I had to bring the worms, last January, just this past, earlier in the year, I should say, Rick and I had to bring all the worms inside, because we did actually have a freeze. And so both of these bins, plus my little 3-gallon bin, and then also the oblong planters that I have all had to come into the living room. And I sometimes think, gee, I'm glad I don't have any. I'm glad my sister doesn't live nearby, or she would have gone, what are you doing with worms in your living room? Only other worm people would understand this, that, you know, you just have to take care of your worms the way you take care of, well, your pets. I don't see anything else in here. I had put in moringa. I had put in banana peel, and they've just taken that all down. The only thing that I did see was the leaves, and all I did with the leaves was I actually put some dry leaves on top in case there was any absorption. But there's a couple things I want to try. This is cotton. I've pulled it all apart, as you can see. It comes in my vitamin container. So what I want to do is I want to make it as thin as possible. You know how they come out in your vitamin containers. It's like a 2-inch wad. Looks like a little. Okay, so we're gonna kind of put that in there as long as possible. And this one we're going to put in same fashion. All these things that most people just toss. And what's your reason for worms? My reason for worms back in 2009 was to the old lessen your carbon footprint, and it had nothing to do with raising worms to sell them or to whatever. It was just strictly to cut down on what we were putting in the landfill. And so I didn't buy anything separate for other than buying the can of worms. I didn't buy anything else. And so 2 years ago, year and a half ago, as we started to get more into who was raising worms and the YouTube channel, it really expanded my excitement for worms and raising them and what we were giving them. So anyway, here's my latest project, and this is the good old pie pan, and this is a combination of potatoes, potato skins, carrots, they're sliced. There were some coffee grounds in here, and then banana peels, and then I have, that was frozen. And then I put some more potato peel on top and a few strawberry tops, just so it looks pretty. See, don't you think it looks pretty? And so then I cut it in half so that each side, no partiality here. Each side's going to get the same. And each side is about probably too much for these worms, actually. But we're going to try it. Not sure if I'm going to end up getting bugs and what have you, but we're going to push it down and try it there. So each side is just under 8 ounces, and then I'm going to fill in over that with some coffee grounds. I'm not going to worry about wetting this at all because all of that frozen stuff is just going to fill in. I think I probably even Steven on the coffee grounds. A little bit of ground oatmeal because it's a cold morning, and Rick asked me for oatmeal for breakfast, and I said, yep, you and the worms, you're both getting it. And this is the eggshell because eggshell is good for the worms. Who have no stomach per se. It's a gizzard, so we need to help them, our little worm buddies. Grit, 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 and that's going to be it. And let's see if I got anything that I can pull this back over with. I don't want to add really so much more to it because you can see it is really full. I almost think I'm going to need to stop feeding, just keep fluffing and let them process it at some point. But what I did do was I redid each one's lid so that they have their little breathing holes on each one. Boy, those are really starting to get packed. They're feeling like 3-4 pounds of stuff. And that's going to be it. Just a quick shorty. You were here last week. If you were here last week, if you weren't here last week, go check that out and you'll see where we're going with this. So take care, everybody, and I hope you'll come back and subscribe and ring the bell and come back and see me again next week. Take care. Bye-bye.